actor, writer, producer Max Osinski. Welcome into our studio for the Creative Blood Experience.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Nice one. I can confirm to everybody listening that you are absolutely much less high maintenance than Zava, the football legend you've just played in Ted Lasso. So let me tell you how this is going to work. In my hand, I have a deck of 50 cards. Each card contains one question designed to reveal how you have navigated your creative experience so far, and in turn share insights that our listeners can take into their own creative lives. So I'm going to ask you to select 10 of the cards, but first I need to give them a really good shuffle.
Okay.
And whilst I do that, I want to introduce you properly to our listeners.
I love it. Okay.
Max, you have quite a story. You currently live in London, were educated in New York, raised in Chicago and born in Austria. In the mid-80s to your Polish parents, who were at the time living in a refugee camp whilst in the process of fleeing Poland's authoritarian communist regime. Thankfully, their efforts paid off in the form of a childhood in Chicago, and it was at high school that you really got into acting. Side question, thespian or jazz hands?
I would say thespian. Jazz hands, are you referring to like musical theater?
Yeah, sort of like High School Musical.
Oh.
I'm not imagining that, but I just thought I'd ask.
I remember just really being fascinated by the craft, and whether that got me in a play or a musical, I didn't care.
Okay.
At the time, yeah.
Perfect. As is often the case with creatives, you were encouraged by a teacher to pursue your dreams, and it was a drama teacher who helped you secure a place in the acting program at Syracuse University, which is thanks to a study abroad program with the Shakespeare Globe Theatre, how you first visited London, and where you now live with your wife, fellow actor Ditchen Lockman, and your 8-year-old daughter. I hope it's fair to say that although you've been in the acting game for a long time, these last 18 months have been massive, with Apple TV shows catapulting you both to become fan favourites. Ditchen for her role as the mysterious well-being counsellor Miss Casey in Severance, and you as the hyper-spiritual, fur coat and shades-wearing football diva Zava in Ted Lasso.
Very accurate.
Described on the casting brief as the world's best footballer, could be any ethnicity from anywhere in the world, you tried to talk yourself out of auditioning for Zava, not only because you had zero soccer experience, but in your words, they could have picked literally anyone, even a real footballer. However, it was a friend in the end who convinced you to go for it. I wanted to ask, is that actually a correct story? What a friend, and how can you ever thank this person?
That is 100% correct story, and his name is Damien Bodie. Shout out to you, Damo. He's a massively positive guy. I owe him a huge amount of gratitude. He talked me into it.
Although it was a comedic role, you did some serious research on the world's most iconic footballers to understand their psychology. You trained one-to-one with a soccer coach and with a personal trainer to become physically authentic for Zava. Basically, thanks a billion, Damien, because you are now a fully playable character in the iconic FIFA 23 game. What are the chances? That must be slightly bizarre.
Yeah, that is very ironic. Trust me, it's not lost on all my close friends who know me well.
Other TV credits include Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D, The Walking Dead World Beyond, as well as the movies In Time and Love and Other Drugs. And off-screen, you've also written and produced a web series, Hollywood Hitmen, which you also starred in. Max, I'm here today to prize out something that I know that you usually make a point of not sharing, which is how you actually do what you do, because your approach to your craft and creativity is born of a staggering amount of discipline and process. So with that in mind, I want to thank you for being here and welcome you very warmly to the Creative Blood Experience.
Thank you very much. What a flattering introduction.
Oh.
Yeah. Hope I can live up to that.
I hope so too. No, I'm joking. Pick your cards, sir.
Okay.
Make sure you're not looking at what they are. Okay. Who knows? How many have we got?
Wait, I'm not
3,
counting. 1,
4.
2,
yeah.
6,
okay.
7, 8, 9, 10.
Well done. Okay, we're going to kick off with this one, right? Question number 1. What's the best way to approach people that you want to work with?
I remember telling myself when I was in uni studying acting, I was like, focus on myself and improve my abilities, which will then, I believed, draw what I need toward me. Instead of trying to schmooze or brown nose the people I think that could help me, I was like, just do your work, do the best you can, work hard, work smart, and hopefully that will get those people's attention. And then you don't have to try as hard, right? So I tried to keep that rule for myself.
Did you ever reach out to anybody to invite them to your performances?
So where I went to school in Syracuse, upstate New York, they had the regional theater, Syracuse Stage, that worked with the drama department. And I remember like one of my goals was like, before I graduate, I'd love to work on that stage before I leave. The artistic director back then was named Bob Moss. I remember auditioning to get into a play for him senior year. And there was a role that I really thought I could do. It was a Pinter play, I believe. There was general auditions where you just go in and do something you want. And it didn't go very well. He didn't call me back for the audition for the roles in that play. I remember being so disappointed in myself. But I remember there was a moment where I was like, it's my senior year. I want to give myself a shot. So I remember I walked up to his office. And I was standing outside his office, like mustering the balls to like knock on his door to ask if I could still come in and audition for it. And I was like out there for like 10 minutes, which felt like ages, like trying to like talk myself into doing it. And I did, and I knocked on his door. And then his secretary let me in, and I just said, I'd like to audition for this part in your play. And he was like, well, I saw your general audition. I just don't think you're right for the production. And I was like, I would just, like, if you could just give me a chance to go into the room and do it, like, I would really, really appreciate it. And he said yes. And then I went in to the thing, and I prepared for the role that I wanted, and I did well, and I ended up getting the part. And I remember like when I got the part, I couldn't like believe it. And I was shocked. And then he was directing it. And, in that area, he was kind of like the big deal. But it was all because I like talked myself into knocking on his door, like scared shitless. Like as if he says no, like you're going to die. It was like the worst thing you can do is say no.
The thing is that I think the moral of this is you should approach people in person. Because I think, imagine, for example, the version of now. Mm-hmm. With email and sort of all those different platforms where people that you really, or potentially you would want to get in touch with, they're inundated. But the fact that you stood outside of his door, got your shit together, essentially,
right, yeah,
and went for it, it paid off.
Yeah, no, luckily it paid off, and that kind of chutzpah worked, and,
So
I don't
Damien
know.
And Bob.
Yeah, Damien, Bob. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bob Moss, if you're listening.
All right. Question number 2. How do you stay motivated and inspired when you hit a creative block or rut? What's that version for you?
Trying to find something that gets you back into your imagination, or trying to go back to something what did inspire you back in the day. So like I'll find that I'll like want to see a movie that I love, those movies that I watched in high school that like inspired me to go and do this before you learned more about the business and you've been out there for a while being told no. And, because I think like the danger is letting pessimism and getting jaded seep in, because then that'll ooze out of you and then people will get a sense of that and no one wants to be around that.
Yeah. You need to get fed.
You need to get fed. So like what feeds me, like going to see a good play and going to see a movie that like just feeds the imagination and brings back the reason you got into this in the first place.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a biggie. Mm-hmm. Question number 3. What's the one lesson that you keep having to learn on repeat?
Getting my ego out of the way.
All right. Bring it.
Getting my ego out of the way in the sense of like being grateful for where you're at, what you've gotten to do, what you're maybe doing right now, and not constantly looking into the future and saying, what don't I have or have I not done yet? Or going into the past, well, I used to do that. Why am I not doing that now? So like ego is like the worst thing for an artist is like getting out of your head. It changes the way you maybe approach the process or the projects you try to do or the projects you like say no to. It's like, is that me or is that my ego telling me, or is that my gut? You know? And I heard someone say, like, listen to your gut instinct. The more you do that, the more it'll be clearer. But you know, have you ever had a moment where you're trying to decide and you kind of like, your gut says you should probably do this, but your brain is overthinking it and you're thinking out scenario A, B, C, D of why and you know.
Every day?
And yeah. And I think if you listen to that gut, you'll learn the skill of listening to it and hearing it a lot better. So yeah, trying to differentiate for myself between my ego and my gut and what do I want to do versus those other two things.
It's a biggie. It's a biggie.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a good one for you here. Hopefully they're all good ones, but in case you haven't felt that yet, I'm curious. Do you have any rituals or superstitions associated with your work or creative practice? Any lucky pants, Max, basically. That is the subtext of this question.
Rituals. I felt like I maybe had some kind of superstitions, but and I'm not like lying or trying to hide. I really,
No,
like, that's
cool,
a good question.
Yeah.
It's like, do I? And I'm trying to think of everything I've done or every like job I've done. I'm trying to think, do I do something?
Or just in your process, like how you approach something. Like for me, I line things up. Here we go.
Yeah.
Go on.
I don't like to rehearse the scene too much in film and TV before, because I'm afraid of getting into a rote way of delivering the lines. So I don't like to, like, if someone says, do you want to run the lines? I kind of like, sometimes I just think like just saying it to yourself quietly and then saying it out loud for the first time is so interesting.
Bigger impact.
Yeah. It surprises you a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
We saved that question.
You saved it. It wasn't me. You did it.
Now I'm going to have a superstitious thing.
You will.
Or something,
but
right?
basically, you're gonna walk out of here with a tick. Okay. Right. Next question. What's the most important lesson that you've learned in your career so far?
When you get on set, when you start working with people, I always tell myself, I'm here to help contribute to this story. And then I see how other people like to work on this set. I think that's kind of makes me malleable and I want to be an easy collaborator. Like I want people to feel like they can give me thoughts and ideas and the other way around. And I think that always works really well. So like, and with Zava for Ted Lasso, like I didn't really get a chance to talk to the guys before I got on set. So I just did as much research and prep as I could on someone like that. And I walked in and then I had to receive what they were thinking about his function in this story and just trust fall. And I think that helped me being malleable and saying yes to trying all that stuff. Every role might require a different way into it or towards it, you know, knowing that like I already prepared it.
You've done the prep.
Yeah. And then like, what are you looking for? Oh, you want to try it this way? Sure. You know? And sometimes then that goes back to the ego of not going like, well, I don't think he'd ever say it this way. Or why would he say this? You have to step back and be like, first of all, you're not saving lives here, right? This is someone else's show that you've been invited on. And it's their world they've created. And you've gotten fucking lucky. And here you are working with them. So like, you got to trust that they know much more than you do about this world. And you let go of that work. And it all ends up working out. But like, that's part of art. It's messy. It's collaborative. You're not by yourself. You're not doing a one-man show. And I found that if you are easy to work with, I would say like that's more than half the reason why people want to work with you again, because there's plenty of talented people out there. But if you're an a-hole, like no one cares. No one cares how brilliant you are. So I think if you're easy and flexible to work with, that's half the battle for sustainability.
Love it. Yeah. People by people, right? That sort of builds some relationships, the rapport, all of that.
Yeah. And everyone is different. Art is so personal to everyone. Some actors want to go off with you and talk about the scene and do everything with you and really build a backstory. Some actors don't even want to see you till you start rolling. And it's up to you to kind of have your own way of dealing with both of them. And I think that's what I'm always trying to do and trying to learn too. And you only get that by doing it.
Makes perfect sense. I wanted to throw a big question into the room.
Do it.
What's a risk that you took that changed your life? You're smiling. Are you thinking of something in particular?
Yeah, recently I think it was moving to London. I mean, when I look back at it, I was like, that was like the biggest risk. Like and I kind of owe it to my wife because she convinced me to do it. You know, she's like, let's just go to London. She's like, let's just for an adventure for 3 months. I was like, I listed A, B, C, D, E, F, G, why this is not a good idea. And she being who she was just persuaded me to do it. I didn't come here for any job. I didn't have any visa to work here. My daughter was in the middle of school and, you know, neither of us were working. We just said, let's rent the house and do it. And because I took that risk with Deachin, like I got this amazing, crazy opportunity. I met really interesting people and for the people I've gotten to work with, so that's been like the choice that's really changed.
I think also, you know, in the spirit of like getting fed and, you know, exposing yourself in a different environment, different country, different culture, different people, different literally food in the grocery store potentially, you know, different environments, different neighborhoods, different everything visually. Like we got no palm trees here. Like,
no.
And where's the sunshine?
No,
you know?
yeah.
So it's like a different, literally like weather. That changes everything, including mood.
Yeah, I read this article once. It was like, we as humans are really bad at like predicting what's going to make us happy. Do I go A or B? I think I'll go A because that's going to make me happy. And he said like, don't base your decision on what's going to make you happy because we have no idea what that will be.
Yeah.
Go make the decision on what will open up your world and your experience in it, right? And moving to London was not comfortable. Like it was a massive headache, you know, very stressful, but it opened up our experience in the world. And that is usually when you look back at life, like some of those challenging moments where you took a risk, where you were nervous, where it was really difficult are like kind of like with, you know, it's like that cheesy adage. It's like, that's what like life is about. Like, it's not about just being comfortable. You know, those uncomfortable moments in your life are some of the happiest times in your life. You know, my father would say like the happiest times in his life were when he was coming back from the drill bit factory at 5 p.m. after being there from 5 a.m.
Coming back to his family as well.
Like sometimes like when you don't have a lot and it's like, you know, that made him happy. And you don't kind of realize that till you get a little older, but like, but like that, it was a hard time, but it was like a new experience. He left Poland and then came here and everything was new and exciting and hard, but in a new way. So like, like doing that with like coming here to London was kind of like that too, you know, meeting new people.
How long have you been here now?
It'll be 2 full years in November.
Paid off. The risk paid off.
I mean, pushing yourself, you know?
Personal growth.
Personal growth.
That's what risk does.
Yeah, and that's not supposed to be comfortable.
Yeah.
It's messy. It's embarrassing. Sweaty. Yeah, it's gross. Look away.
Okay, now, Max, what conversation do you wish that you could have again and with whom?
In the creative realm.
Yes.
I remember, I know I savor all those moments of collaboration or like being called in like to the trailer to work out a beat or something. And then you just like pinch yourself. You're like, that's crazy. I just like, you know, I was just working on something with so-and-so. So I think like, I want more of those kind of collaborative moments. And I find that when working with people at the top of their game, they're all about the work and it's disarming. And you find that like I once had to do a voiceover part for a film and Tom Hanks was the star of the movie. And I thought I was auditioning for a video game or something. And I got it and they're like, oh, great, you're going in the booth, you're voicing this part and it's the feature film this. And Tom Hanks is going to be there to direct you. I said, what? I said, oh yeah, he's going to direct in the booth. And that was insane. He's like an icon for me as a kid, like watching all his body of work. And you go in and you're like nervous because you're like, you know, Tom Hanks is out there, he's coming in and he knows who he is. So he cuts right through that and he jumps into the work. You know, you're not sitting there worrying about, oh my God, I'm like talking to Tom Hanks. What do I say? It doesn't give you the opportunity to like even think of that because it jumps in right into it. And before you know it, he's like, yeah, improvise that. And like, what if I did it this way? He's like, yeah, that's great. That's funny. And you're doing it and 30 minutes passes and you're like, holy shit. I made Tom Hanks laugh and he was saying, improvise this. And I was giving him thoughts about what if I did it this way? Before that moment, you were like, I would never tell Tom Hanks what I think it should be.
Yeah.
You know, and you find that they're all just actors. What does Quentin Tarantino say? Treat actors like stars and stars like actors. That's what he does on set. And that makes sense.
Game to game.
Yeah.
Because you're
I don't know how good my game is, but like talk about the game for now.
Awesome. I've got a wild card for you. You picked a wild card.
Oh, it did? All right.
Yeah, you did. Well done. Okay, so what's the biggest creative challenge that you're facing right now?
Right now?
Right now.
Well, I'm going to have to learn an English accent.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. And so are we talking like sort of the Queen's English? Are we talking Cockney?
I think we're talking like lower estuary.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all like me-ish.
Yeah, not RP.
Okay.
Not RP, but I think that if we're talking like immediate, like what's the next thing? Like that. I think that like I have to dive into that part.
But I'm not allowed to put you on the spot.
No, because I have to
go through the process.
Yeah, I like it messy. I like being messy on my own.
Okay.
And
that's cool.
Yeah.
So what's your process and how are you learning the English accent? Or the East, the sort of the East London accent, Cockney accent?
Outside of maybe coaching, the dialect coach, it would be just listening to similar films with that sound. And then there's this like International Dialect of English Archives, a website, which is like this holy grail of people from all over the world, from those parts of the world, reading the same standard paragraph that dialect coaches use. And you could hear men, women at all age ranges from whatever country you're trying to like hear, pick up the sound from, reading the same thing. And it's like a great place to go to just get like, hear an actor doing an accent, but hear the actual person from that region speaking the same text. So you kind of get a chance to learn and pick up like how every region says words differently and makes the sounds differently.
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Is this like a thing? Are we talking like potentially anyone and everyone would use it? Like, do you think Tom Hanks would use it?
I'm
for
sure
example?
he's heard of it, maybe. He's used it, yeah.
Is it like a thing on the circuit? Like, this is where you go to?
Yeah, I remember first hearing about it in college.
Okay.
And then, I find myself sometimes going back there to like pick up a sound or listen to someone. Yeah, but it is like a thing. Yeah. Every dialect coach or usually actor will probably have heard of it by then.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask anything specific about what it is, but for an English show or...
it's this indie feature that we're planning to start in the beginning of August. And be playing this like, he's kind of like this drug dealing criminal who has like a beef with one of with the main character, and there's a love triangle kind of thing.
It's not EastEnders, is it?
No. Yeah. I should watch that. So I think that
good prep.
Yeah, it is good prep. Yeah, that I'm working on. Yeah, and then just creatively, I think just in like a bigger macro, it's just like staying. I think your job is to stay happy, positive, no matter what.
In between projects.
Yeah. Deechin and I, we've tried to approach our auditions with that. You can easily get miserable, and that's okay. We're all human. Like, I'm not toxically positive all the time, but trying to be happy and enjoy where you're at right now. I think that's a big part of the job.
Yeah.
Staying creatively inspired in between is really important.
Okay, right. I've got another question for you. Who is your dream collaborator and why?
There's so many. I'd be fascinated to like be in a room with like Daniel Day-Lewis.
It's a big one.
That's a big one. But I feel like that would be everyone's. You know, like the pinnacle of an actor's actor, as they say.
Yeah.
I think it was in New York when I was living in New York. I saw a screening of There'll Be Blood. And then there was a Q&A where Scorsese was interviewing P.T. Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis. And then Daniel Day-Lewis walks into the auditorium and he was nothing like what I just saw him on screen. And I was just like, what the hell just happened? And here comes this guy with this really soft English voice, and like he's wearing a scarf and he's very kind of like artsy. And there he was in There Will Be Blood. And you're just like inspired and shamed because like, how did you achieve that? Like that, that kind of transformation is and I don't want to lose that awe and that wonder.
That's a great feeling, isn't it? When that's the question that you come away with, how did they do that? If you're feeling that off the back of seeing something, isn't it funny, like awe and wonder? I don't ever really think a lot about that, but I know that sort of magic is also really important to feel that creatively.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Too.
You're like, well, how the fuck, like, what is that? Or that feeling of especially in like being an adult and everything. She said it all gets a bit sort of like sometimes heavy or like trying or testing. You just think that awe and wonder is so important and so vital to maintain something in us.
Yeah.
You want to keep feeling like you want to achieve that or you want to feel that or receive it.
Yeah.
In some way. And that's like the taser that reignites.
Yeah, me and my wife Deechan, we try to because we still have to audition, and we've tried to redefine what that means for us and keep that sense of fun and joy with it, because they become really joyless because you do it and you send it off and it's out of your hands. And it's a business, and then the way people choose to cast or not cast certain parts, like it's out of your control. But we've tried to find that joy in that process that can be very monotonous and not really rewarding. Because like the minute you're like jaded about it, I think that's when you start to die a little bit.
Right. Okay. Last question. Okay. You ready for this one?
Last one already?
Yeah, I know. Right. Do you know what? I almost feel like I think I know what you're going to say. But now I've said it. Question number 10, Max.
Okay.
Who is the person that challenges you the most?
My wife.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, actually, my daughter.
Okay. I didn't know you were going to say that.
Kids challenge you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In what way?
I realized that, like, they become a reflection of you as a parent, and then you see things in them in yourself, and you either like those things or you don't. You, like, approve of them or you don't. And how it manifests in you, that's the game.
They are a mirror.
They're a mirror. And the things that I maybe see her do that maybe I don't approve of, it's more about me. Yeah, there's such a mirror. Yeah, kids you learn a lot about yourself. It's terrifying. And then when you meet other kids, you're like, you see other kids and you're like, all right, I know who your mom and dad are. I know what they're like. You meet the parents, like, makes sense.
Yeah, meet the Fockers.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Literally.
Then I wonder, like, you look at your own parents and you're like, oh, am I turning into that? Or
that, my friend, is non-negotiable. Yeah, that happens to all of us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so it's, my daughter.
Max, that's your 10. One final thing, whilst you've got the ears of our listeners, I wondered if you wanted to plug or direct them to anything right now. It could be a new project of yours or somebody else's. Could be a song, a film, a cause, or even an idea. Anything that we've not discussed today, but specifically that you'd want the world to know about. This is the moment.
I'm not going to plug any of my projects because they're not even out yet.
Okay.
I love, like, Hijack on Apple TV with Idris Elba is really good.
Yeah.
Well-written, simple, not big budget or anything, and just like character-based, high stakes in one location. And it's just nice to see like good story in the era of like where there's always a lot of flashy content out there. And it kind of like, maybe it shows you that you don't need a lot of sparkle and glitter on a project to make people want to go see it.
Yeah.
If it just goes back to what's the story and
the
who
simplicity.
Are
the story. The story is always everything.
And that's easy to get lost nowadays with the budgets and streaming wars and studios fighting for like the best blockbuster IP they can get out there.
Hijack.
What a random thing to plug at the end of this.
It's great. No, it's
but
great.
I was like, well, what's the last thing I really enjoyed?
That's cool. Yeah. It's also like those things are real insight into sort of where somebody is at in a moment in time. Like if you were to look at also like my playlist, my podcast I'm listening to, they will always be framed in a world. And it's an insight into what I've got going on in my head. So it's great.
Yeah.
I want to thank you once again for being here with us. That risk you took, as far as I'm concerned, it paid off. It got you here. Thanks a million.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you don't miss a single drop of the Creative Blood experience by subscribing and following the show wherever you listen to your podcasts, and share it with a fellow creative. Let's get these conversations out there and into the ears of those who need to hear them. This show was created in partnership with the brilliant humans here at Creative Blood and Scenery Studios. Thanks for listening.